Okay, so we have recorded an audiobook.
Woo!
I want to hear what your process was like.
Oh my goodness. So, I was so, just like whatever about it. And even just that conversation that we had about me recording my section of the audiobook, I think is so important, but like small but big, right? It's just like, the system wants one thing, right? To make it easier and to just have you read the whole thing since you're sitting there or whatever. But making the choice to say, hey, let me just share this information with you, right? You didn't even necessarily pose whatever. You just said, hey, this is what's happening. And I was like, I don't think, I just was, it's an instance for me to trust my gut on something. And what I think I said was just like, it doesn't feel like an instant, yes, that's fine. And so I think we should trust that. That
Hmm.
feels like a Black woman instinct for both of us, where it's just like, I don't feel like you should read a Black voice,
Words.
you know?
Yeah.
For both of us. And so even just going into that with that, it was like it gave me a sense of like, oh, this one felt like I have some discernment and understanding. Cause often I'm just, with us, I'm
It's,
just kind of like, yeah, whatever, go for it.
I mean,
Let's do
it's
it.
funny because in this book, I have a pretty significant quote from President Obama, too. And even with that, I was like, you try to change your energy of your voice when you're doing a quote, but I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want people to think that I'm trying to like imitate President Obama, right? And it's
Right.
pretty just like, but
I
I
think if
will
it was a
say
quote,
this, like,
it's
I
different,
was I was proud of how we put you in the book, and like you're mentioned in the beginning, you're mentioned throughout. The white woman whisperer name is in there to like infuriate people or catch people's attention.
Mhm.
And you know what? When I tell you, like, my sound engineer is a Black man, and there's a
Wait, the guy I recorded with is a Black man.
very good way to test if you feel comfortable as a white lady with your anti-racist book.
Mm,
Like, I felt like I did a good job. Like, we did a good job.
mhm, mhm.
He was really excited to be just after the first day where I read the author's note and all the stuff. And like, we're trying to do this in the best way possible. Here's
Yeah.
the routes that we've taken to mitigate the fact that this is a book written by two white and white passing women. And yeah, I just like, I felt good about it. I feel good about it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's how I felt. It's funny, I had a Black guy do my sound recording too. I had Christina come with me. I think it was, like, the best thing I could have done for myself though too, because there's a lot of, and I don't know if I believe in imposter syndrome and whatever, but I have it, where I started to feel like I had to, throughout the first read that I did of my thing, it was kind of like, I'm supposed to put on a voice, right? Like, what? Like, it's supposed to be like whatever code switching was that I thought it wasn't, but, like, I was trying to do that, and,
Yeah.
by the a couple minutes in, I started relaxing, and I felt it, and he felt it, and Christina felt it, and we all by the end were like, "Yeah, let's do it again." And, I took 3 tries, I did the 3rd one was my best, and then realizing at the end, like, "Oh, wait, it was supposed to sound like me?" Even though, I still have, like, it's your book, how you're reading it, then here I come, but also it should sound like me. That's my whole thing, right? But it's still this, going out into the real world and recording it there and not in my, there
Yeah.
was a lot too. It was really interesting, but I was very
And
proud
I
of it.
also think with this, just to emphasize the like, we just chose to not take the easier route. And we can
Yeah.
just choose that. And, even when I was in the studio, they were like, we want you to record the two parts. And I was like, I'll record this one, but I'm not going to record that one. Like, I. I don't want to speak over
You're a little
her. She
difficult.
doesn't want me to speak over her. And we'll do another take. We'll pay for a few more hours. Like it's not, what I'm trying to say is like, part of how we got to America being so shitty is by letting the bottom line always make the decision, right? Like, yes, it makes a lot of sense. This is my second audiobook. I am a public performer, right? Like, I felt so good doing this time, I'm telling you. Like, I was like, I know what I want this to sound like. Like, I've been doing this. Like, this is my soul. This is everything I know about cults in this book. But also, like, where was I going with that? I'm like, I know what I want it to sound like, and it doesn't have to be like the simplest version, the cheapest version. Which, on that
Right.
note, I want to
The most
pay
efficient.
Christina also for the hours that she was there. So make sure
Wonderful.
you send that. I was thinking about that for both of you. I was like, I mean, you have to have a person there reading the script with you. And this is not a
And for
charity
so many
project.
reasons.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
pay, like, you both brought friends with you, and that was the right answer. And I want to make sure we pay those people. So
Wonderful. That's great, and it's like the decision to do so landing on you and not me to negotiate and, like, those are boundaries I'm setting for myself, right? Because I have corporate America trauma of the put on of everything. That that's what I love about the dynamic we have, and in the way that it kind of has landed has been pretty natural of me just being like, "Oh, hey. Oh, maybe we should," and then we just do, and then you're writing a book and you're like, "Hey," and the amount of resistance I have that you don't, you know, this is what community is like, I'm working through stuff as well, where I was just like, "No, you don't have to. She doesn't need, I don't know. You don't have to worry about it." It's like, what am I have my own stuff around succeeding and
yeah.
survivor's guilt and doing well is always interesting. So even after recording, I have my own emotional stuff I work with where it's like, good stuff. Uh-oh. Like, what? Uh-oh. Who's the narcissism of it all. But
Yeah.
it's nice to have the sounding boards, literally and figuratively, to be able to like between Christina, you, and she just keeps, having someone there to say, no, this is the reality. Because don't forget the reality of the situation where you can zoom in so hard on stuff and, the
And
capitalism of it all.
like, it's really good. Your essay. Like,
Right.
I wrote
Right.
a
I lose
really
sight of
good book.
something.
I'm really
Yeah.
proud of it. And, I want to keep emphasizing this to you because in one of our conversations you said like I didn't need to put you there in the end of the book, and like
Yeah.
I didn't need to. The book had an ending, but it's so much better. Like, it's such a good, like, powerful essay. Your
Yeah.
voice is pretty significantly different from mine, and I think that's nice. And it's just like, but it's
Yeah.
also playing into like where I'm going with this next stuff, where I'm like we can do white
Yeah. Like
women
make different
things. I'm
decisions.
planning a knit-in because as a white woman, like, I was talking to my audience today, I was talking about like weaponizing the Karenness against the administration because
Yeah.
like
Please.
that is the difference, right? Like, I can write this book that's literally criticizing everything. Like, in the Kirkus review, it literally was like, what did they say? This woman who's obviously pissed off about cults or something. And then it's like mitigated by, the writer. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. I have to like read it to you. They just say her well-established disdain for cults balanced by, the co-writer. And it's like, but I can do that. I can be a ridiculous white lady who's angry about cults, Like, when I was down at the
Yes.
veteran sit-in and some cops were giving a trans veteran a hard time, I got in his face and I said to him that I have more military experience in one of my ovaries than he has in his shrivelly little man body. And he looked at me shocked and then he cycled away,
Yeah. Like,
And it's like,
who else is gonna do it? You know?
this is what I
This
was
is
saying today. And I'm like, all of these white ladies are yelling at me about like it's not safe because ICE is coming to okay, like, if ICE comes in my neighborhoods to talk to my neighbors, I'm gonna go out there with my Karenist Karen code switching on. Excuse me, do you all know what the courts have said about this? Excuse me, do you all know that you're not allowed to do this? And do you know, by the way, that we're going to sue you for billions of
what's your
dollars? And
name?
oh, yeah, what's your name? What's your number?
What's
My
your name?
lawyer is going to be down with these people from the very, like, tearing it up.
What
What
are
are they
coming
gonna
for
do?
you?
They're not gonna take me.
This is what I'm confused about. How dare you use other people's actual fears and use them as your this is where I started with BO, with white women borrowed outrage. But now you're like borrowing oppression
Yeah.
and fear. Like nothing has
Well,
happened to you. Nothing's happened to
and
you.
this is like one of the things about TikTok drama that's happening with me right now. It's like someone snipped a piece of a video and then used it to basically make it look like I'm saying that Black people need to forgive MAGA. Otherwise, they're pushing them.
So I do want to talk to you about that video. I've seen I saw some of it. Not and this isn't I'm not like you did anything wrong. I know where it happened because I fixated on it a little bit because I
Yeah.
understand
No,
obviously
I
what
did.
you're
I know
saying.
I did something wrong because, like, the wrong thing
It was
got
just like
communicated. But I'm
right.
like, just like learning that I have to be like so much more specific when I am talking to like white people who are not at threat. Like, we are the ones that should be putting our bodies in between. I wasn't saying the victim of the cult needed to forgive, the victim of the
Right.
cult being my 10-year-old mother. I was saying there were other people. I was saying maybe Larry King, a straight white man, could have held some space,
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
I completely so why don't you just you can like set this because I don't know what the purple revolution is. I totally understood what you were saying. I want to provide the like if you had sent it to me sensitivity read what I would have
Yeah.
said. Well, I could just actually you don't have to explain it. So because purple revolution, white people, their colors and systems.
Yeah.
Shut up. Shut up. I don't need to hear anymore.
Didn't like the name just because of the history of white people talking about purple people. And I was like,
Well,
no, like,
revolution, y'all can't even have a conversation. Be quiet. Like, and then you're like, but okay, so, and what I gather from it is they're like, red and blue people come together. Please be quiet. Like, people come in red and blue, but not black and white. Okay, cool, interesting. You're not ready for that level of conversation. White people are way too zoomed in, right?
right.
So you were saying, I think you were giving a literal example of when people leave cults, things when they are received or not received by a community or by the world. They're either go to another cult, which we know cult hopping or cult tapping, or they just end their lives, especially if they're white men, because we're talking often about white people. This is a
Yeah.
very white people conversation. So that's what you were saying is like
Yeah.
and you gave a real world literal example of an opportunity where someone could have practiced acceptance, and instead they were like, "What?" Rhetorical
Right.
questioned it. "How could you? What do you mean?" Larry King a long time ago, and you give a very vulnerable example. Okay. So, I would say you got it. You understood right away, like, you say white people when you're talking about anything, mostly, especially culty things. Even or not especially even culty things. Like, there are general systems, but if it's advice or, like, something like that, you white people, because Black women are watching, and I think that's good advice for just, like, everybody. That's how I approach
Yeah.
this, even though our audience is called "Hey, White Women," I know Black women are watching, so that's why I'm always like,
Well,
"Alright,
that's even something that I'm
please find out."
learning in my predictions. Like when I said, like, the government is not going to bomb Americans. First of all, like, I thought this was a different video, but like, I thought it was very clear that I was responding to a military specific question. But because I
Mhm.
didn't say, like, the military is not going to, and you couldn't survive that, right? Then Black people were like, well, Philly,
Yeah,
right?
move bombing, yeah.
Tulsa, right? Like all of this stuff, which again, like I've only ever heard of the move as a cult or a terrorist group,
Which is
right?
what
So
I
that's
remember
even
us
still another, yeah, it's in my cult comic book, American Cult. And like, I mean, the dude was doing cult leader stuff, but it's
sure.
also an example of the way that the government weaponized, I think, white supremacy and that cult moniker, like in a negative way. But anyways, all this to say, I obviously tend to forget because I'm a white person, but like when I'm saying like the government is not going to bomb Americans, I mean when 10 million white Americans went out on the street last Saturday, there
Mhm.
was no risk that the government
Right.
was going to fricking bomb us from the skies. And it's what I'm learning is that I need to include that part. Like, I need to include the part where I am saying, and this is like, I today was like, I need to start making more videos about this, of being like, part of what we're talking about here is weaponizing your whiteness against the government and the
Yeah.
system, right? Because the government can't just come out and attack a bunch of white women because of their white supremacist system, right? They
Mhm.
can't.
Yeah.
Part of what I'm
They have no
trying to
tools for that.
show with the knitting is that me, a random white lady, can just put 100,000 people on the mall, white people on the mall in DC, and there's nothing that the government can or will do about it, right? Like,
Right.
everyone will just let us do that. Probably.
That's interesting because it's also like calling the bluff of me was also what I'm doing, right? Like if someone at a micro level being called racist doesn't hurt you.
Mhm.
You'll be fine. And everyone's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, but they could get take your jobs. They could." Yeah, welcome to living. Like, what? There's it's what you choose to fight back against. But
But
I think
yeah, but
white
this is
people aren't used to this. Like our experiences are so different when it comes to the government,
right.
right? We are the
Right.
thing you're supposed to be
And
afraid of. We're
this
hung
is
so you get scared.
right, but this is also what I'm trying to kind of also call the bluff of white women. Like, we don't know what to do. You don't know how to organize. Of course you
Right,
do. Tap into your
right.
little MLM soul and get all your friends to start organizing, right? Like, that,
And it's
the thought that I had was, okay, what can I do? And being someone that has a big platform, like, how can I use that? And I was like, okay, I can spend 30 minutes to an hour a day organizing to try to save my country. Like, I can afford to do that.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to go do it. Right. And it's like, use the skills that we already have. Like, once you understand the stereotypes, speaking of code switching, it's like, I'm I'm not a Karen. I have never asked to talk to somebody's manager in real life. I don't even like
No.
to take up space at the meat counter. But like,
But that
I can
you do
Karen,
have,
but I can play a Karen, right?
right.
Like, I
And
could
you
Karen
you
with the
have
best of them.
you have this similar energy though. You can understand here's the thing. You can be a Karen. Karen for good is what I usually say. It's just that you don't call the police. It's like but you still have the same entitlement to good treatment that Karens do.
Yes.
And you still have the
And
anger
it's
that
that's
comes
what
when
I
you
mean
see
about
injustice.
weaponizing it, right?
Right.
It's like,
Yep.
don't call the police, call the police's bluff,
Right.
right?
Go
Like,
watch the police.
they're not going to shoot me. Like, what is ICE going to do if I stand in front of my neighbor?
Right. It's the comfortability of the Karen that we want to not exploit, but look at and say, but look at how comfortable they are in spaces they claim are dangerous. You're saying I'm fearful this suspicious person is dangerous, and then you get closer. Why are you doing that? Because you're not scared. What I'm saying, I used to talk about when I go back through my journals now, which I'm doing, white women getting their nose broken, but paying for it. It's just like these white men are going to this camp or something. I think it's a new cult, whatever. They're paying like thousands of dollars to be treated terribly for alpha male, blah, blah, blah. Those are the same men who are like soft. You know what I mean? Like, don't reject the Karen. Just be like, what is that? And how can, because
Right.
what I used to say is, you guys are angry. You're giving Karen. You're just throwing it. You're just throwing it. And I don't
Yeah.
know that you're doing it in a
Right.
way that's useful or
But
helpful.
that's what I mean. And like Karens, like middle-aged white women, we control the money in this country. We control
Mhm.
trillions of dollars. We control more money than white men do because
And you also
more
shoplift the
women
most, which is interesting.
handle the finances. We do also shoplift the most, and we're never suspected of it.
And I wonder if that's why, though. It's like consequences shape behavior.
Right.
And,
Right.
you
And
know,
like, we control so much. We have the most disposable income. You know, people are talking about like, oh, it's a bunch of like middle-aged white ladies out in the parade, which I continue to call it, which like, okay, but we vote and we control a lot of money. And so showing that,
Mhm.
like, that's not the only thing that we need to do, but like showing that to the Republicans
Start
right
somewhere.
now that like, hey, this is not going to go your way. Like, there's something there, and there's something,
And they like to
like I
you
was
wanna
saying,
feel
like
safe.
I brought my kid, and this wasn't a thing where I was like sacrificing my kid on the front lines of, no, like I knew there was going to be no danger here
Right.
because this was mostly going to be a bunch of white people. Even in DC where it was a huge mix of people, but like, and this is, this is part of my own personal journey too, with like being that woman in the military who thought she was breaking the glass ceiling and like proving
Mm.
what women could do and all of that stuff. And then to like watch the spawn of Satan become the Secretary of Defense, right? Like a literal white supremacist who was too extreme for the National Guards is now in charge of the military and is like trying to destroy everything I fought for and then bled onto the page of my book. But the thing that just sticks out to me is like, okay, so they've weaponized the concept that America's not ready to see dead white mamas,
Mhm.
basically, against women like me and women not like me our whole careers, right? To keep us out of operations, which keeps you out of most of advancement in the military. Okay. Well, that's a weapon for me now
Yeah.
against them because America is not ready to see a bunch of dead white mama.
Right. Well,
And so,
white America.
right. But like, while we're still in that system, right? I
Mhm.
can have
Right.
perfect confidence. Oh, we adapted the name to be a brigade of Britneys because that is the best. Like, if I were to go march 400 white ladies in bad blonde wigs and big beach bellies up the steps
Mhm.
of the Capitol, nobody would do anything to us. And I come back to like, and if they did, because that's
Right.
the problem of
Like,
having a tyrannical government that works on propaganda. That's the problem with a white supremacist cult that works on propaganda, is if you call the bluff,
yeah.
right? Like, okay, you're not, it's so true what Black people said that if it had been not white people storming the Capitol, that would have been,
To
that would
me,
have been a whole
that
thing.
was my moment, I think, that really watching a cop hold the hands of someone and gently walk her down the steps of the Capitol, like, broke something inside of me and was like, "Oh," and, it
But
wasn't new
like,
information,
But this is kind
but
of the concept, I think, of kind of like being a double agent within the system, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Right. And at least for me, like I was like, my Katniss Everdeen moment is I have read 2000 World War II spy novels where like the woman of today finds out she's connected to white lady who was a spy back in the day. You probably don't know this genre exists at all,
Nope,
right? But it's
nope.
basically like modern day historian or journalist or just like badass white lady who starts on this like discovery path, and then at the end you're going to find out this woman is like her grandmother or her whatever. Like they're very connected. It's just a whole genre of white lady guilty pleasure fiction, but
I
it's
hate
like,
that they're related at the end. Why can't she just
but
be great?
this is why I laugh at their straight white military, right? Because I'm like, you
Mhm,
haven't read, not you, you haven't read either, but like their straight white military hasn't read a bunch of, they're also just romance novels, right? Like it's just porn for white girls. Like this is what it is.
mhm.
But like, I can be a double agent
Right,
against white supremacy. Like I could play
right.
that real hard, like as long
Yeah.
as every time I hear the people being like, kumbaya and race is made up and we need to like hold hands and get together, I'm like, you can't, like, you can't heal from the cult till you're out of the cult, right? You can't, like, heal the wounds of war until the war is done. So,
But also,
like
who are you talking to? We.
yeah, right.
We need to heal. You first.
Right, right. But like while we're in this system of white supremacy, like if you're a middle-aged white lady,
Listen, you'll
like
be
you
fine is the
are the
problem,
perfect
not the
double
problem.
agent. And
Yeah,
and that's true. We will be fine. And this is part of, I guess, like what I'm trying to learn is like because my audience isn't only white people.
right.
However, like
But you can be
a
talking to
big
white
part of
women.
what I'm doing is
Mhm,
trying to show women like me
mhm,
that they have more power than they think they do. If you
absolutely.
listen to me about the military, if you listen to me about how cults work, if you, all these other creators too, not just me, but like once we learn, we can go weaponize that. And this brings me to the Taylor Swift thing. I've
Mhm.
had a week of fun with Swifties. Oh, yeah.
Ugh, and Hank
I
Green is involved now. Did you see that Hank Green got himself involved?
I saw him
Which I'm
talk
like,
about
"Wait,
it, and then I
hold on."
closed out. It's been very interesting. People trying to silence me with black women are asking you to stop talking about this. Like, that's been fascinating because quite frankly, like, it's not only about the racism for me, right? Like, that's a big deal,
Mhm,
and that was, like, her choice to mention or in any way do anything that could possibly have alluded to a black woman, like that was definitely like an unforgivable step.
mhm,
But like this is about more. And I say like I now know that this has always been coming for me. I think part of why I chose to delay writing the book where I have to tear myself apart and look at the whiteness for a year was because I knew that I was going to have to come to like deconstructing the white woman's comfort billionaire. And I wasn't ready. But like for me, the question is like, why are you not doing anything? Right? Like you
mhm.
sold us the concept that you would get to the top of the man's world and then you would use that. You literally promised us in words in 2017 that you would use your platform and you have
Mhm.
done nothing.
Yeah,
Right. So, like, that's my thing was like,
but you're future faking
for
it.
those of us that are here trying to do the work, like, why are you not doing this? Like, why are you not holding yourself to this standard being someone that's like out here in public? And like,
But
or
yeah.
another interesting one was people being like, oh my gosh, you're taking away from everything else that's going on right now. I'm like, that's a question for Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift decided, hey,
That's what Hank Green was kinda saying.
On October 12th, I'm going to have all the white women in America talk only about me for 2 weeks. She decided that.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of us believed, I think because she led us to believe that this was going to be kind of a badass sequence and energy to fight fascism, like energy from being on top of the world and what I learned. And instead, it was something completely else. But like the question is, why did she choose to do that? Right? Because we were always going to be talking about Taylor Swift for these 2 weeks.
Right, right, and I think maybe that might be something to think about.
Yeah,
We
but
were
that's what
always
I'm
going to
saying.
be
Like,
talking
but
about her
that's
for
what
2
I'm saying.
weeks.
It's like this
Yeah.
bigger thing of like, why did you think it was appropriate to drop that? Like, even if you are like, oh, she's not allowed to be happy, blah, 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 but like,
Well, because she here's
not
the
and just not say nothing, not and just not do nothing about
I
what's
think
going
what
on
it
in the
is,
country right now.
she and I know that you don't identify Swifties with a cult because I don't think they are. I think it is an identity, but I do think she is a cult leader in mentality, always has been bred, like raised to be, raised by, who wants their kid to be a stage, like the whole concept of her existence right now, you and her fans have been able to do the plausible deniability of identifying her as just like you, but also Taylor Swift. You know, she was writing songs. She's the same age as I am. But you think she's just also regular at the same time when she's doing an eras tour, the eras of her life and her journeys. You're 30. You haven't done. This is the only thing you've
It's
just
also,
dated guys.
I was thinking about that yesterday too, right? Like
Nothing has happened.
I agree with like her as a cult leader type of person. And I think that she is drinking her own Kool-Aid in the way that like, yeah, sure, you can identify something as an era afterward. You can't be
But it
like, this
also
is my era. And like,
right.
like it's just very performative and it's very like girl, you were already gonna have a huge legacy that nobody could kill. You didn't have to say that in a song. Like,
But she's not good. I know,
I
Danielle,
know, I
listen, here's the thing.
know. Honestly,
Here's the
there's a theory that
It's
she's
like
trying
cult
to
leaders aren't
cancel
smart.
herself.
Oh my god,
But
stop it. Okay, wait,
no,
hold
I'm
on.
not.
Stop it,
I
right?
don't like the theory. I think it's more infantilizing of her. But
No, it's
I
like
think
both.
this
She's a
not
super
good.
genius,
Right.
a
I
little
think
baby.
this not good thing. This is part of the problem. So like the video I posted today about why she hasn't come out and said anything about. Right? Because most people, if they're accused of doing something accidentally racist or anti Semitic, they're going to come out and say something, right? She has not. And I think that the sacred assumption, the thing that is the most important to Taylor Swift and to Swifties, is that she is brilliant,
And
right?
good.
Right.
Good.
But brilliant, right? Like she's
You know what I mean? Like this.
always, but she is always, like she's always called herself a songwriter, right? She's never been like, I'm a performer, I'm a dancer, I'm a songwriter, right?
Yeah,
I am
she's
a
brilliant, but also
reader.
baby.
But
Baby.
this is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So, but the
Yeah.
reality is she is a homeschool GED, not
No.
educated person.
She called herself
Right? Like,
your
I
English
have an
teacher.
honors
No.
degree in literature, right? Like calling yourself America's English teacher,
Who do you think you are?
writing, but also this, like writing a song. Baby, I'm a mastermind. Now you set
Also,
the
you're
standard.
Taylor Swift.
But
Is
now
that
you
not
set the standard. You have to be a mastermind because now
America's
you
English
can't.
teacher? Had you ever seen Matilda? Matilda,
And it's
where
funny,
she
like I saw some Black women commenting on the America's English teacher thing when generally
wait,
everyone
really?
seemed pretty happy for her. And I was like, huh, interesting. And then this
Wait,
came
what?
out and I was like,
So I was just gonna say
just that
because
they thought it was gross that she was trying to call herself America's English teacher. They're like, you're a billionaire. You've always been famous. Like, you're not one of us. Like, what are you trying to
yeah, she
do?
thinks she's like Miss Honey. So it's like the sweet English teacher. I think white women tend to think they're both Miss Honey and Matilda, right? Special
I
little
don't know
girl
who
who can
either of
move
these
things.
are.
Okay, so Matilda is this little girl. Danny DeVito's her dad. She's got this scummy parents. They're terrible. They're so mean to her, but she's so
Oh,
cute
she
and
can
sweet.
read everything by the age of 4.
But she's very smart,
I
and then
think
she
I
can
know.
move
Yeah.
things with her
Okay.
mind, right? She's so special she can move things with her mind. And then there's Miss Trunchbull, and she locks you in a spiky, scary closet, and she's fat and mean and brown hair. And then there's Miss
Mm.
Honey, and Miss Honey cares a lot, and she saves her from everybody. And I think white women see themselves as Miss Honey and Matilda, right? They see themselves as both Lorelai and Rory. Remember we were talking about the Gilmore Girls? I realized after you're both. You can't just be one. They need both. There's this codependency that this one only works with this one. And this story is the only place it exists. Your favorite English teachers. Hey, guess what? Guess what white English teachers are starting to be known for, by the way? Doing creepy stuff with their students.
Mm.
Also, Taylor Swift dated a high school student. Signed him out and everything. These are the things I know about Taylor Swift, okay? Beyond, I didn't ask to know, but I know them, okay? And it should be okay to say, hey, she's not that good. It's like Keith Raniere wasn't great at all those
Yeah.
things he said he was great at. Judo
Well,
champion,
that kind of, I think
pianist.
I feel like that's what happened here, right? It's like the mask slipped, right? And she thought she could just put out a quick, happy, rushed album because she wants her 13th album to be about marriage and kids, and that's why it had to come out now. And she's so
I guess.
dissociated from the world. Like, I don't want to also, though, like part of the narrative is so infantilizing and I just cannot, right? Like again, like the whole concept was you're clever and you're hiding. Like she actually kind of did a QAnon thing before QAnon, right? Like you're hiding all these secret symbols to those of us
Mm,
that know the
mhm,
game in your
mhm,
stuff. Right.
mm,
And that's great.
mhm, mhm,
People love
mhm,
that. Just the same way people love to be like, oh, you don't get Shakespeare or oh, you don't get, right? Like
mhm.
I've always,
White.
as someone that came from outside of the culture, yeah, fell into white culture. I was always fascinated by how in the arts and the literature, if you're popular, you're not considered good by the highbrow crowd, right? Because like you can't possibly be popular and good at the same time. And I've always found that to be interesting. But the way that
I don't think
people
it
love
makes
to
sense.
just be like, oh, you just don't get it, you know? But
Like, why does
there's
everything have
a
to be so hard? Why
there's
do
a
we
real
love things that are complicated?
there's a real thing for me that has been interesting, which is just like, you know, I now know that you can have a crack in an ideology. And it doesn't have to be a totalizing ideology, right? Like I wasn't brainwashed. In the time I've loved Taylor Swift, I have gotten 2 degrees, right? Written 2 books, like done tons
Mhm.
of research. Like I have not been isolated. I've deconstructed different worldviews, but like I had a crack like a week or two ago. And now I no longer believe the world according to Taylor Swift.
Right.
And part of that is because she's literally been lying to us for 5 years. And like the whole deal was you tell us your real thoughts and feelings, and then we like support you, basically. Right. And
Yeah.
she's been lying and lying and lying, and it's catching up with her. And it's like, but
But I
it's
would also say
also an
she's not like a special case though. Here the thing is that she may have even meant in her brain to become successful and change it up. That's not possible, right? I remember you asked me, if I could talk to Taylor Swift, what's one thing you would want me
what
to
would you do?
say? And what did I say? Did she talk to her about my Patreon? Now, I wish at that time I had said I would ask her, "Have you heard of White Woman Whisperer?" and see what happens on her face at
Yeah.
the words, right? And that would tell you a lot more. That would tell you a lot more than anything else,
When I was
let alone
reading
would
your
she pay me?
name in the book, I had to work really hard to keep the smile, like the evil grin out of my voice because I was like, "Oh, feathers I'm gonna ruffle of the
I feel
white
like,
ladies."
and I forgot about that. I forgot about the whole concept of how
Oh, and
spicy
I
the name
added
is.
a large Taylor Swift deconstruction note to this book too. So it's
Nice.
like at the beginning, I'm going to lose some people because I say I'm a Swiftie. And then at the end, I'm going to lose some people because I say things about
But that
deconstructing
gives you so
that.
much credibility, in my opinion,
I agree.
that,
And you know what? Like
you know?
it's been a very interesting week, including being like, because again, I was always going to do this. Like this next part of my public persona has been set for about 3 years, and we're doing the deconstructing whiteness. Like we put it on a shelf for this time. We've been doing the work in the background. Now we got to go do this. And I had
Mhm.
this moment of like, because so first of all, I've had the most cancellations of my book this week. And I've had so many white women being like, this is the line for me. Like, that's it. I'm gone. And they weren't going to like the book anyway. So like, I'm not upset. But I
Right.
literally had that moment where I was like, if you're asking me right now to give up white women or black women, like I'm choosing white women. Like, no, like this isn't even close. Like
Yeah. It's worth it to
what,
to to filter it out earlier, and, like, what you gain is a slower, stronger build. Like, when we said, like, we choose the more difficult option that isn't for everybody, because if it's for everybody, it's for nobody. Those are people still in their anti-identity where all they cared about was that
yeah.
you liked the same thing they liked.
Yeah.
This
And
one
it's
thing.
been really interesting to me about my fans, right? Where it's like, again, I'm the one that has the rule, hold nothing sacred. Like, I've been low key questioning Taylor Swift for 5 years now. Like, but I don't care who it is. If you thought I wasn't going to look at it, like, if me criticizing one person, any person is like the line in the sand for you, then you're not getting sort of the point of this page.
Right. And that's why
But
it's like,
yeah, I
there's
mean,
well-meaning, but
yeah.
that
But
doesn't mean
also,
it's well landing.
this is one of the things we say in the book, which is just like, I don't think fandoms are cults. I don't think anybody has really named what they are yet, right? So I call them a demonstration of like combustible energy that can easily tip either way, right?
Hmm. I would say that's white fandoms.
Sure.
Um,
Um
because I've actually I like this because I just made a video and it's almost I'm on the edge of it. It's really the identity versus community. I talk about Swifties versus the Beehive, the Swifties versus the Beehive and
mhm.
how they're discussed. And I'm saying that the Beehive is protect our queen and Swifties are destroy our queen's
Yeah.
enemies.
Right.
And those are very
And
different.
also
And it's not even all bad.
nobody asks me ever if Beyonce fans are a cult, but I do get asked it a lot about Taylor Swift.
Because
And
I do think you're more cultable when you have an anti-identity and then this gives you
yes.
one.
Yes.
Your
And there's like,
cultability is the thing.
and again, it's like that's the thing I'm trying to say here is like no, like just like we can say like people try to be like, "Oh, Christianity is the problem." And I'm like, "Look, Christianity is a lot of problem." But in and of itself, it's a problematic identity. There are
Yes.
many groups that are powered by it. And I am starting to now think that there is a sort of like, I don't think it's a Swiftie cult, but I think it's like the cult of Hollywood. And Taylor Swift is the skinny white woman of that, like
I think
cult of
Swifties are highly
America.
culpable.
I think there's
I
a
think
lot of different
yeah.
things. I think that by, like my talent manager has said, like being in the music industry for 20 years, she just found it fascinating how much time people would spend doing these puzzles. I don't know if you know back in the day, but you had to you had to buy the album. So you had the lyric sheet and then she would like
Mhm.
capitalize certain letters and that would put together. It was like a child word search thing, but
It feels
for
escapism in a
teenagers.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go deeper into it,
very
I think, more.
gamified, and that is part of what the QAnon appeal was to people
Right.
also. Like, "Oh, is this just like a puzzle game, just like
You're
something to
smarter.
do?" And it's easy for people to say, "What is the harm? What is the
Right.
harm?" Well,
Well, and
because
because
you
without
were
the
having
cult
so much
system.
fun with the game, you failed to see the critiques or the problems. It's almost like how people were getting so obsessed with Pokemon Go and then they would just like fall off a cliff. White
Right.
white
Well,
people, white people.
if it right, exactly. And I think it's the lack of community outside of that, the lack of personal self-security and sense of okayness as it is that you put too much. You create a void in yourself and then you fill it with this identity versus being fine and whole yourself and enjoying something. Like Beyonce keeps putting out music and you want to talk lyrics, sure. I am not a lyrics person. I'm a vibes person but I do think I said worship of the written word and lyrics. It's like inception. It's like you get
Oh
into
yeah,
this world of escapism. Whereas with Beyonce, sometimes it's a world where you start to feel and remember and
right.
think about other times. And that can be scary for some of us who are scared to feel things if you're in a cult, right? If you're told, well, this is the good feeling, it's suffering is the good feeling. I mean, you're like, what?
I mean, I
Dancing is
think
bad.
that's even part of my journey, like I wasn't looking for music that made me feel deep feels. I was trying to
Right.
numb everything and run through my life as fast as I could to get to some sort
Hmm.
of success pivot, and that's
Shakespeare
what
and stuff.
part of what I'm having to look at is like I want it to be a basic white girl so freaking bad. I want to
Hmm.
be a basic white girl so freaking bad. Like that, like I was trying so hard like to be that. And I just like think about like what if I had found other music.
But you found it
And
now,
actually I do
or
need
you
one
can.
recommendation from you, which is like what is a Black woman who sings like slow lyric songs that you like? that I
I
could put
did
on
see
to, like,
someone
go to sleep. Basically, I need some new lullabies,
hmm,
but they can be serious
I like it.
lyrics. It just has to be, like, slow music, and then
I
I'm
think
gonna
I like
play
someone
it for
suggested Snow Allegra to you, and I think that would be nice. She is very,
Snow
like I
Allegra.
like her
Okay.
voice. It's SNOH, Snow Allegra. I think that would be nice because 'cause I've been thinking about that. It's also like you have to and you don't have to replace that right away because I don't think you can
Yeah.
replace what you
Well,
were doing with music in that way because what you were looking for was an audiobook with vibes in the back or like a poems or something.
yes.
I don't know
And
because
by the
I don't
way,
listen to
like,
music and go Taylor
part
Swift.
of part of what's interesting, I think when people get judgy to me, is just, like, music wasn't a part of my life. Like, I was taught
But
music
you
for
don't have to define that.
performance. I No, but it's just stuff that I'm going through, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
every time that I was free, where you were probably listening to music, I was listening to an audiobook. Like, I was, like, trying to inhale as much knowledge as I could. Everything had to be accounted for. Like, I would watch one TV show a week and iron and fold my laundry while I was doing that. So if you think
Mhm.
about, like, I was in, like, peak Puritan work ethic and performance, Protestant work ethic, and all that crap.
Yeah.
And only recently have I been learning, like, when I tell you, when someone said, if you don't listen to melancholy music all the time, you won't feel melancholy, I was like, that I just never thought about
Mhm.
that. That, like, if you listen to happy, upbeat music,
Mhm.
you will feel more happy and upbeat. Another problem
And
with me
that's
is, like,
yeah,
sound
proof right there.
sensitivity. Sound sensitivity. So I just, like, am appealed to by soft, melancholy music. But
Yeah.
anyway,
But you could put on lo-fi, but
I
you
am
want words.
only now, these past 4 or 5 years, for the first time in my life, like, actually kind of exploring music. And it literally was just music was only on if I couldn't pay attention to an audiobook, basically, for my whole life.
And I think it's like you're taking it on almost like a task to like and I think there's you're gonna have a whole journey with just re-listening to Taylor Swift, and I know it's like all or nothing. So, the other thing I was gonna
Well,
say about your
so
post
I'm
wait, no, so I wanna add something here. So, the other thing I was gonna say about the post about the Purple Revolution, right? You had said you have 2 options. You either accept them or you don't accept them. And I think that was a big
too
trigger for people,
binary.
right?
Yeah.
The binary. And while that technically is true, because if you don't accept something, then you don't, there is another, you can give people the room to not do anything. If
Yeah.
someone, because you don't know what, it takes it from concept to personal. Because if I say you can accept it, or you could not accept it. But there's also, what if I just sit on it for a bit, take a beat? That white people never think that they have
Right.
a beat to take. And I think even with this, you don't, like let this one sit and grieve and question and music and what does music do
Oh,
for
yeah.
people have such different like I'm also connecting it to black people and the black church, right? Like they leave black church, but love black church music still because it was how they was the fun that they
Yeah.
had at that time. Like if that's all you got and it feels good, then
Yeah. And that's
it's
important
okay.
to me. And, like, part of what's important to me is for this to be messy and silly. And, like, I'm going to learn some things and I'm going to go back and be like, oh, well, I saw this other thing. And, like, that's the point of it. And I was even like, as I put out this very serious deconstruction book, I can do Swiftianity, right? And go through my
Yes.
stuff. And I do want to be conscious that, like, I don't have to be all or nothing, but I just kind of feel like I'm still upset and angry right now, you know?
Oh, I
So
totally
I'm in
get
my,
it.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not what we talked about with R. Kelly and stuff. Like, I just don't, like, just the thought of listening to it doesn't sound good to me right now. When I open my social media and see posts about her, I roll my eyes in the back of my head, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just
You need
like,
space.
done. I'm done.
Right.
But
You need space.
I'm
That doesn't mean
obviously going to
forever.
have to come back and, like, really deal with all of it even
Because
more.
you
And,
were
like,
okay. You don't want to look
in
at past you that way. I
and
think
right,
that's
and it's
the
like
hard
there
part.
are things, like when I got my uncultured book deal, right? The first time I ever felt, like, when I felt my feelings about it, I was literally listening to when she says, you're going to do greater things than marrying the boy on the football team. I didn't know that at 15, right? Like, that wasn't about her to me. That was about me being thrown out of a cult at 15. And here I
Yes.
am. Like, I took my story, I bled it onto the page, I made something beautiful. It has changed people's lives. Like, and here we go. We're doing it,
Mhm.
right? Like, that was super meaningful to me. And like, that's not something that you can just like throw away. And this is the
And
other
shouldn't.
thing, I didn't even remember to say it when I was talking about all my music trauma, but like, I walked away from all country music in 2016 because I was so disgusted. Right. And so it has been like, but recently I was like, well, because I was listening to country music in my high school and college years, like, that's always going to be my comfort music.
Mhm.
Like, it was the same, similar to when I realized that like American food will never be my comfort food. Like, F mac and cheese, hate that, but like, give me some Brazilian beans and rice, right?
Right.
So, one of the
Yeah.
things I've been doing right now is listening to Black women's country music because I'm like, I know
Mhm.
that's not going to be racist. And then I can still get the thing because that's part of the problem for me. And I think this is part of the problem of deconstructing is like that feeling of being like fooled and lied to. And like, yes, people were saying it. And there's a lot of reasons that I didn't listen to it, but it's like the betrayal of that. And also just knowing that, well, clearly I'm not the one to pick this out. Right. So even though it's like, okay, I might like, you know, Kelsey Ballerini or whatever, another country music white woman, but like, I'm not going to know. Like, I'm not going to be the one that's going to be able to tell if there are problematic things that are
Right.
being
And
said.
or you don't know if they're gonna like, you don't even know it might, like, and you might hear it,
Right.
but you don't have to worry about it when you pick. That's how I feel when I
Right,
pick up a Black
exactly.
woman
That's
book.
why I'm
I'm
like,
just like,
if I just am only listening to country music by Beyonce and the other women that it shuffles on from there, like, I know it's not going to be
it's
racist.
gonna be
And
safe.
so
Right,
I'm
and
going to be able to go from there.
you can listen to old music or whatever with like, it's almost like you're interacting with past you. Like, I like to redo certain songs where I listen to music and I'm like, are they what were we talking about? There's a very famous one. I don't know if you've ever heard this City High song. I'm telling you, Daniela, this was my favorite song. And it starts like this. Well, I'm not gonna say how it starts, but what would you do if your son was at home crying all alone on the bedroom floor because he's hungry and the only way to feed him is to sleep with a man with a little bit of money and his daddy's gone somewhere smoking rock now, in and out of lockdown. I ain't got a job now. So for you, this is okay. My favorite song. I was maybe 11. Did I know what I was singing? No, we all were singing it. Now I'm still going to groove to it now, like you just saw, and will always, but I'm going to be making fun of how ridiculous that song is. But also, the men in the song are just terrible. They're at this stripper party and they're like, hey, girl, you were in high school with us. You really came a long way. You're the one paying the stripper, but you're shaming her because anyway, sorry. Black people just know this, right? And I think there is an element of white culture and white community that white women could get in one, yes, be disgusted for sure, but it doesn't have to be your own purity test against yourself in the future when you go back and dissect it, because who else is going to do it, right? I loved that song. I'm the best one to talk about how
Right.
ridiculously bad it is, but also one of the
And
singers was her sister actually in it, so that was my
that's
favorite
what's
movie.
been so interesting to me about people being like, oh, but out of this or blah, blah, blah. And this goes back to, I think, what I've learned all along. It's like, well, you keep your critique based in your own story. Like, you critique the stuff you are thinking about that you are living through. And it's like, I don't care who you are. You don't have a right to tell me that I don't get to spend at least 20 years talking about this person because like
Yeah.
I it's
Why
like
would
it
anyone want you to be quiet?
feels exactly the same as when Christians try to tell me that what I grew up with wasn't real Christianity, which I got again today. Rebecca, You gon
Real?
you are gonna lose your
Real?
mind. You are
I
gonna
hate
lose
when
your
someone says
mind.
that.
So one of the critiques that started about me was, "Oh, she doesn't actually know what she's talking about. She doesn't understand Christianity or America or MAGA because she grew up in the jungle, isolated from everyone." Like, I grew up in major cities of 7 different countries,
Confused because
but it
who whose history are we talking? Who? What?
You know what it felt to me like? It felt to me like
What?
the movie Mean Girls. Like anytime a white lady goes
She doesn't even go here.
in Africa, or in the jungle,
Jungle. Jumbo. Like, that doesn't make any
which
sense.
is like, since I came to America, I have been asked by ignorant white people, like, what the Amazon was like very many times. But just to have like
Oh my god.
white women that are publicly left leaning and supposedly intelligent, and their first thing when I start deconstructing, let's just call it whiteness, is to go, "Well, you grew up in the jungle."
Well, here they tell me I'm white. And like that's supposed to tell me that, they'll just say whatever thing they think about you.
You don't understand Christianity.
It's just like the discrediting is so white. Discrediting as a concept. Like there's this, you can't talk because, excuse me? You can't talk because, and that's what they're saying. They're just telling you to be quiet. And anybody who's telling you to be quiet should shut up.
And I mean, this
So
is
I
kind
get
of
you, actually.
basically one of the responses I've been having to people whenever they're like, "Why are you wearing that?" or "Why are you talking about that?" And I just go like, "Why? Like, what is going on in your life that you feel comfortable telling another adult, especially a stranger, like what they should be doing?" This woman was just
White people stuff.
screaming at me on Instagram about, she didn't mention his ex and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, why? What is going on with you right now that you feel like this is appropriate?
I would just be
Like,
like, "Are you
but
okay?"
it's just fun that they're trying to know true Scotsman me, right? Like,
I don't know what
do
that
you know
is.
what this is? Oh,
I
this is
mean,
when they're
it
like,
sounds
"Well, you're not a real this, you're not a real that,
yeah,
like, you're
whatever
not
that
a
is.
real fan." And like,
A
I
true,
think
a
I
real.
think 2 or 3 years ago, I was in the top 0.01% of Taylor Swift listeners. I was in the top 0.02% of Spotify listeners. I just want to say, like, I just stream music and do a lot of autistic stuff a lot. But like, no, you don't get to tell me that I'm not a
It doesn't
Swiftie.
matter.
Like, stop,
They'll just be
stop.
like,
I
"Well,
know. I don't,
you
yeah, I know.
weren't
But this is the part that's going to
listening."
be fun for me. It's like, I know every lyric
This
of
is what I'm saying.
every song, and I only ever thought about what it meant to me.
Right.
But now we're gonna go back through, right?
But
Like,
now it's like you get
the
the white lens.
whole catalog. And
It's
like,
gonna be
I
so
was
good.
already, when I was writing on American the first time, I was already listening to Dear John just on repeat, which is her pretty good song about a narcissist. And now I'm just like, oh yeah, I just know that like I'm gonna be doing like Taylor Swift through the years as I'm like literally writing this book to
Projection is real.
deconstruct, and like
But it's like from
just
personal.
literally
Perfect.
deconstructing like what her look is right now. Like, she is the Barbiest she's ever Barbied,
Barbie.
as like I'm trying so hard to unbarbie, and so just all of that, like
Yeah.
taking it down, taking it apart. I think it's going to be an
To me, it's
interesting
really
journey.
exciting.
It's an interesting journey. I think it's exciting too.
I'm
And
excited for
also
you.
like the amount of, and this has happened every time I've ever been vulnerable with Americans and been like, I don't know this because I didn't have this experience. I am always treated with absolute open arms. And like, there's already someone who's arranging like a physical package of music that a bunch of people are going to contribute and send to me. And like, somebody else who's a Black woman is going to do a Google Drive where people can put music on to like help me listen, and it's like people, like, that's the other thing that I have learned is like when you tell people like, hey, I don't know this, like, do you want to share your culture with me? Like, people are always willing to do that. And I honestly kind of low key do not get the white girl fear of exploring other cultures because I've never ever just had people like butt out, even white Europeans that aren't that, Germans will be like, "Huh, we'll speak English, but they're still nice, you know?
Right. Like, people aren't that bad, guys. Like, but there's this culty, and white people, you're the ones. It's because you guys are kind of terrible to each other in that way that sometimes, like, post-traumatic slave syndrome, we do also is like, you're bad to your kids because the world is going to be bad to your kids. So you're preparing them. But, like, who said?
Yeah.
It
But,
depends on where you are. Are you
and,
at work?
and this is another thing that I have been talking about and that I've, really been learning from this book on post traumatic mistress syndrome that came out of that concept, which was
Hmm.
like the the white women on the plantations also were not free, right? Also were essentially being enslaved by the same white men, but we're buying into it and we're isolated. And so we're
Hmm.
like, obviously a much better situation, but
Hmm.
like
Because sometimes,
being isolated off in your plantation house by yourself, was
yeah.
that ever really the better?
Right. I don't think there is freedom in America. There is no such thing as
Right.
financial freedom. I don't even think the men are free in their own way if it goes that way, like the men weren't owning everything, right? Because George Washington married Martha Washington because she owned a bunch of
Right.
slaves,
George Washington was the richest
so
man in America. Yep.
quote
And
unquote owned slaves, quote
they
unquote.
literally gave white men a little bit of land so that they would like be this barrier. And this is, sort of the issue. And I put this quote from that book into my book so that now it's in my book. But like
Hmm.
she says, as countless Black women have said to me, if white women get their together, oppression doesn't stand a chance. And it
Right.
really is this. It's like we got to stop playing that game and start being on this side. And that's
You're
the like,
oppressing yourselves, you know what I mean? Like, at this point, it's I talk about with the washing, and I'm sorry, but I can't stop it. With the men are so bad at washing themselves because their mothers didn't wash themselves, and if they did, was when they were sleeping, so it's like it never happened, and there's no room made for it, right? So, like, when I'm talking to
also,
white women, it's like, you guys are doing it to each
yeah.
other and yourselves in isolation, but
And it's that
yeah, you're
purity
victims too, but
culture, and it's
come on.
not getting, it's that purity culture. Like, I was talking about this with my
Yeah.
husband as we were in the shower together, and I was like, yeah, if you are from like a regular Protestant American household, right? Like the last time someone showed you how to wipe your ass or take a shower was when you were about 5 or 6 years old. Like maybe you just need more instruction than that as you grow up, and it's
Yeah,
purity
if they want
culture
any.
that has like destroyed that. So
Yeah. Yes.
yeah,
And
I
just like
and
we don't have time. We don't got
and
time
it's
for it.
in it, in Culting of America, in the Skinny White Woman chapter, we talk about like we're talking specifically about Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos, but I think Taylor Swift is a very good stand-in here as like people that pose as like these feminists or me in the army, right? But like what she failed to realize was that feminism doesn't work unless you advocate for women other than yourselves.
Right.
Right? And that
Yeah.
was kind of the whole deal, was like, her fans, were going to push her to the top of the man's game. And then she was going to use that power. And you know what? We made the wrong woman famous. When
Yeah,
people
but
say
and
that,
also, like, to
right?
do
It's
what?
like
You
she's
know?
not right, but
What was
she's
she gonna
not
do?
using it. But she could do some stuff. Like she has like the most powerful voice. She has like the least ability for like she could have canceled her Target
Right. So
deal,
I think
right?
it's a paradox, right? I don't think that if she weren't, because this is what I get to a little bit in my Swifties versus the Beehive. I don't think she would be where she is if she was ever going to or was going to be able to do that. Her
Right.
dad was always in
And I
charge,
agree. And I
you know?
agree. But part of why I am pissed
The belief was
is
there for
because
sure.
I think there was kind of a deliberate bait and switch to build us
Yeah.
up. right? Like
Oh, for
we
sure.
always knew Taylor Swift was conservative. And then in 2016, she put out on her Lover album, on her last I'm in Love album, there
Mhm.
were 2 political songs, right? And then she made a documentary where she literally said, I'm not staying silent anymore. I don't care if I lose fans. Like, I'm going to do this. And
Yeah,
this
but she said
is
it in front of a camera.
right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it
Yeah.
seems like there was a deliberate attempt to make us believe that she was going to use her platform. And then she, sort of, I felt very performatively endorsed Harris. And then has done nothing. And like she could have broken the deal with Target. Again, would she have lost money? Maybe. Does she need the money? No. Right?
She
Like,
like, there's so many she would do more than just, like, technically endorse someone or, like, only on the documentary and then make it like, "All these men are yelling at me," and because I saw that and I believed it too, the Americana thing. I remember being like,
right.
"But also, there's a camera, this is on purpose, who are
Yeah.
you dating,
But
what's
I
your"
also think that's just because that's the journey a bunch of her fans were on. So she was like, okay, right? Like I can play to this. And
Mhm.
and here's the thing, and people are telling me I'm wrong, but I'm just putting it out there. Like she owns her music now. So for the first time in history, she knows where the money is coming from for all of her early music. And then all of a sudden she comes out very different. Like I find that to be interesting.
Listen, she been famous this whole time. That doesn't do nothing, you know?
I
No,
know,
it's
but
not even
just
to,
like
like
for me, the difference of
it
how
does
much
something
I
to you, though.
know exactly who my audience is with the
Mhm.
indie book versus the traditionally published book that I don't have all the visibility on. Like the amount I know of who my client is. And like, fortunately
Oh,
for
so
me, it
you're
has
saying
gone the other way, right? Like I had an interview with a Black gay male teacher right? Like
mhm. Wait, so are you saying you think
nobody's
that
perspective audience for Daniella's memoir was that guy, right? So like by interacting with my own audience, I have found out that my audience is much more diverse than people predicted.
so you
I
think she's
kind
reflecting
of
her
low
audience
key
with all of
believe
this stuff. Got it.
that she finally got the numbers, right, of your master's music, right? So who buys your music in bulk, right? Like who's buying it
Mm.
for events and parties and radio stations. And like there is just so much more data that you know when you have all of those numbers. And all I'm saying is that's an interesting thing to
Interesting.
consider, right?
I
Because
see
we
what you're
know
saying,
money
yeah.
talks
And then not
and
saying anything is great. She's great at not saying the thing, right? Like very Daenerys. Just all I gotta do is say my dragons, I'm it and blame something and let it
yeah,
just be, and that's enough, right?
I mean, come out and
And then
said, as
people
long
come and
as you're
defend
talking
you,
about me, it's okay. And then,
right? And they
yeah,
ain't great. And whatever. I don't want because I'm not supposed to even be on TikTok, in terms of like all that stuff. But the people then come to defend her and having these strong emotional reactions to you not, believing in it anymore, whatever it is, believing that Taylor Swift is this some exceptional white woman who is going to do the one thing no other white woman seems to be able to do. It's like, well, eh, eh, I don't know. I don't know how influential. I think the idea, hypothetical influence and power is great.
right. And this is kind of my thing where I'm like, I don't know that I actually believe at all that you can change a system by working your way up to the top and then changing it. I mean, Clarence Thomas, right?
Right. I mean, we see high black faces and the high spaces ain't gonna save us. It's like trying to
Not
push
that
the
some
pyramid
people
over
don't
from the
want
top.
to, right? And like, I definitely think that Kamala Harris would have been a good president. However, she wasn't going to fix it, right? Like, having a black
Yeah.
woman at the top wasn't just going
And
to
what's a
suddenly
good president
fix,
do?
right? it wasn't suddenly going to fix all of the problems.
It's a
And
good army leader.
so, and that's part of the problem. And this is what I learned from the whole purple revolution thing, is that specifically white men and also white women coming out of toxic cult-like groups still think they deserve the leadership position
Yeah,
on the
because
outside.
they
And
still white.
that's where we need to check them. And that's where we need to like understand who is on the field and why and who the leaders are and where your position is. And like, yeah, you can come sit on the bench and give your votes, but like you're not
In
leading,
charge.
right? Like this guy wanted to lead. And that was and
It
by the
was
way,
a
like I
guy.
never intended to comment on it. I literally said, I don't know what this is. It needs more
Yeah, that was not
introspection.
your fault.
And
That one I have nothing
I
on.
was really educated on it by the comments from Black people saying like, and I tried to like all of them saying like, no, I don't have to forgive. No, I don't have to this. And like, and no, they don't have to lead. Like they can come over here and be part of this. But like, that's what I walked away with. And I think that these cults, this is what they teach us. They teach us to be performative. They teach us to be the leaders. Like we are supposed to be the Katniss Everdeens. So like that's even what I have been asking myself. And it's a little bit different because obviously I am a creator. But like, what do I like? Part of asking, like, what can Taylor Swift do is me asking, like, what can I do?
Right.
And again, we always come back to like the answer is not one thing. The answer is not flashy. The answer is probably not something you're getting credit for, right? It's like you literally have to do all this deep work and understand that the deep work never ends and understand that it's not just enough. Like,
Yeah. Make a less
okay,
popular decision sometimes. That
like,
like often it's
yeah,
just
like,
that.
okay,
Go with
great.
the
I
choice.
use my platform to give you a voice or to let your voice be heard on my platform. And now, like, I got to keep doing it. I got to keep going. I got to find more things to do. Like, it's never,
Right.
I
It's
think
just
like
amplifying what
when
you're already doing though,
Greta
you know?
Thunberg came out of the Israeli jail and was like, I think the most important here is the story is not us. The story is them. Keep talking about that. And
Right.
that's what I think white women and white men that are deconstructing from MAGA really need to learn to do is be like, yep, I'm out of that. I'm glad I'm not in it anymore. Now pass the mic to the people that
There's
do
still a
know
need and a
what they're
desire to
doing
feel
here.
special, I
Yeah,
think,
it's
when they're
that, right?
out.
It's like
And that's whiteness. That's
it's the
whiteness.
feeling special
But you're like every
in
other white
in the
person.
deconstruction. And this
Yeah.
is part of why I go back to like, this is why when I started my platform, I was reading other people's books and bringing other things in. This
Yep.
is why when
Same.
I'm going through something messy like deconstruction, I think I should do it out loud. And this
Yep.
is why when I
Same.
make a big mistake, like saying there's 500,000 Marines, I should come back and correct it because there's some element of deification of you're this amazing person that just has to do with fame or that like we don't get to choose. I get told I treat my fan base, my followers, like a cult, and it's like we don't get to choose what they're called. I would much love for it to be called something else, but they're called followers. But
Yeah.
like
It's not really
it
what
it
the name is, you know?
doesn't we don't have to buy into the fact that because we have more followers than someone else, like we are more valid or more legit or any of those things. So like
Right.
I'm constantly looking for ways to actually show that like, nope, I'm a human. Have
If
trauma
you've never been
responses. I
wrong,
do things. I make mistakes. Yeah,
yeah, you
exactly.
have to
Like
be excited for those opportunities because those are the times it's like, "Oh, great, now I can demonstrate what I'm talking about."
we're already getting to like my husband and I are like, it's weird and spooky that I haven't really been wrong about anything in this administration yet for 10 months
Well,
because
see, but
by
you
like
shouldn't.
but
There's a difference because I deal with that too. Because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I'm always right about this white people stuff," but it's just that's why we're there. We're
'cause
there to
that's your
speak about.
expertise. Exactly,
I
exactly.
wouldn't
And
come
it's
on here,
like
we're
and
women.
it
We don't just talk.
usually has to
Yeah, we
do
do.
with when I go outside of my area of expertise, I'll do something wrong. And it's so easy. And
That's what
this
hand
is
cream be
also one of
doing,
my
talking
things
too much.
for good organizations where I'm like, okay, you say you have a good group. My first question is where does the organization or the group sometimes lose so the individual can win? And I specifically want you to look at when one member of the group hurts another member of the group. or an individual is hurt by a group policy, what do you do? Because almost across the board, we go with silence, we go with cover it up, we go with the individuals involved need to understand that the group is more important. And yet, I have never seen a leader or a group be hurt by being like, oh, this thing happened. It was wrong. Let's deal with it. Let's, no matter how PC I was forced to be by editors, my rule number one for good groups is still rule number one, don't the children or protect those who do. Like, just like it is that simple. You can
Right.
just choose the decision, like the Tylenol thing, right? Like, choose to make the right choice, do a recall,
I
cost
don't
yourself
know.
millions of dollars. This is like, at one point there was cyanide in, or there was something poisonous in Tylenol that went out, and it was thought it was going to be the end of Tylenol, that there was no way they were going to save their reputation. And basically what they did was they were just like, hey, huge problem, we're recalling everything, like, where they set up line, they basically, this is like one time that an organization dealt well with it
Oh,
and
well, we studied dominoes
saved
in
the
business school.
organization. Yeah.
Yeah, Domino's had their whole thing where they were like, "We sucked," but I mean, it didn't really like, it worked, but it didn't really work. But in business, they had a whole campaign on people hated our sauce, so we came in and we fixed it and had a whole bunch of people like, "Well, Domino's," and then whatever. And they made a whole thing out of it. And people need to just listen more,
Right.
but
It's like
whiteness is just like,
you can use, hey, we got rid of this person because they didn't meet the values of your organization. Like, that is a benefit to your organization. Like, I think, like,
but cults
it's,
don't do that.
and it, right, and it's a way of flipping the thinking, right? And
Yeah.
that this goes all the way through, and this is why there's no thing that's going to be one decision. It's literally like, we need to change from hierarchy to a circle where everyone supports each other, and
Yeah.
like, it's a
I think
whole
I I
complete
think I
way of
heard the
flipping the
term
script.
adhocracy. I went back and like I said, I'm going through my 2020 notes, 2021, adhocracy. I don't know who made that up, but there's these special design things I remember learning about business school where it depends who's in charge depending on what we're doing. And
And
this
yeah,
is a community of many different, and who it is, and what time it is, and circumstances, and individuals. But white people are so zoomed in on individuals to individualism, they think each one of them has to tell their specific story in order for people to understand how they relate to the scenario. But you're white, do that first. You have a community, people. Talk about white people stuff because we don't have the same. White people use black fears and our things that happen to us to keep them in line. And that's what the cult did, right? It was like,
yeah,
look at how bad it could be. And so you're like, I can't go protest. Look how bad it could be. Not for
not
you.
for you. Yeah,
Not for
exactly.
you. I can't. It's like, we have different experiences. I need you to acknowledge it. Because whenever I do, they say, that's racist.
Well, and this is exactly what happened with the No Kings protest. What happened was what needed to happen. People of color needed to stay home. White people needed to go out and protest. That happening kept everybody safe, right? And like, and we need to figure out how to do that in our communities and in our businesses. And
Now
again,
that
like,
we know
I
that,
come back to, like,
you know,
nobody can force you to believe in a hierarchy that you don't want to believe in. And so if we are
it only
all
exists if we believe in it.
finding out ways to,
Yeah. No, you're doing good work. I think we're doing what we want to see. We're trying to be the change we want to see. And there's a lot of pushback and fear that it's on you and people who look I don't like when okay, people who look like you, white people, start saying white people and stop saying people who look like me. I mean, you can say it, it's fine.
yeah,
But like, what are
yeah,
you afraid of? You're not the one who gets in trouble for saying white people. And the fear even in saying white women, right? Like putting it in the book. And it's not fear, but it's like, what is that? If you can't get over that, revolution, you can't
yeah,
even say white.
exactly. Yeah. And part of my job now, I think, is just to remind white people, like middle-aged white women like me, that like, we are publicly the safest people in America, right? The most danger to us is when we're in our homes from our men. When we are
Thank you.
outside publicly, especially in groups of other white women,
Thank you.
we can take off the cop's hat and put it on our heads and give them a lap dance. and it
Yeah.
is just gonna be a good story. So, like, I really want to encourage my audience to follow Rebecca on Patreon, do the work,
Please.
start deconstructing, and, like, literally go figure out how to, like, tap into your deepest Karenness and, like, deconstruct that so then you can use it on the
Yeah.
side of
What
us
gets you all
taking
worked up?
down the cult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever gets you worked up, you can work on, but you have to, get in tune with yourself first and see where you're at, be regulated, and when you get dysregulated, point it in the right direction, not at me.
Yep. Take a beat and a seat.
Take
Come
a
to the
beat and a
Angry
seat.
Knittin' in DC.
Yes, knit in, sit with other people who think like you, and they may look like you, but think like you is good. And you can find people like that on my Patreon as well. I always think that's a good place to find safe white women, right in there. They're at
Love
least
it.
they can be called white.
Love it so much. And of course, stay tuned. You can purchase the book or the audiobook or the digital book here in pre sales. It is linked here. Super, super excited for you all to read Rebecca's contribution. And thank you again for helping me write a book that I felt very good about.
And thank you for including me. This has been very fun, interestingly. I like
You
it.
know,
I'm excited.
it's good to do things we're passionate about. All right. See you next week, friend.
See ya.